Doesn't? Hey, Warrior Saints. Welcome to our Crucifixional live stream, the day of craziness over here. Glad to have you beautiful people with us. We're having fun today. Greg and I are just laughing about things, but we just have, thank God, things are awesome. So I want to tell you what my team does. We do this kind of with regularity. We have, in our weekly meetings, we share opportunities, we take time to share our thoughts about the successes, but also the shortcomings of one another. Because our goal is it's not to pick on people, obviously, it's for us to get better every single day. And so it was my turn. And I said, in two different instances, I said to my team, I said, first my assistant Tisha, who's, an angel, she has to deal with me all the time. And I said, I was asking her a question about it, and she said, well, I can often tell with the facial expressions when you're irritated. And I'm like, you could see those? You're not supposed to see those, right? So then I said in the larger meeting with the full team, I said, am I hard to work for? I mean, is it tough being with me? I can be, all these things. And Greg says to me, he's like, well, you want what you want. I said, yeah. And then he says, and you want it right now. And I'm like, okay. And so when I don't get what I want right this minute, I make that face. And all of it was really, all kidding aside, it led me to some real introspection to realize how I'm interacting with people and that my interactions may not be what they receive, may not be what I intend, right? So all that kind of stuff. And it led to a conversation we want to have this week. And maybe it's more of a monologue that as Greg and I work through it, online with you beautiful people, how do we control the reactions, those micro expressions in our face, the scowls maybe that we give, the frustrated looks, or worse, the words that we respond. And things seem to be sometimes so quick to trigger us, right? All right, so let me shift gears a little bit. I was thinking about another conversation that took place on a social media feed. And I don't know how I got into it, but I'm in this private clergy group, which, makes sense, right? I'm clergy, and I'm in this private group. And there was a conversation. Somebody said something. I don't even remember at this point. But it evolved into like an 84 comment thread, right? So it was just someone made a statement and 84 comments followed it. And at this point, it may even be more because it's created this huge ruckus. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at these clergymen like slamming each other, like calling names and heretic. And it was crazy. I would just looked at it all. I never chimed in, but I'm like, holy cow. All of it to say those knee-jerk reactions that those guys were guilty of, that obviously I'm guilty of, that I'm sure all of us suffer with. How do we deal with that? And I think the answer to that, and maybe this will be the scripture that we focus on this week, comes from Proverbs, which obviously is marvelous. It's a beautiful text. In chapter 14, he talks about the one who is slow to anger. I want to read it to you. Listen to this. Proverbs 14, verse 29. I think Greg's going to throw it on your screen. Whoever is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who has a hasty temper exalts folly, right? So the one who is slow to anger has great understanding, great wisdom, which is what Proverbs is all about in the first place. Recognizing that, things may not be quite what they seem. Having that ability to maintain the expression, or at least to respond with a smile, even if you're thinking differently, can be so important in the way that we interact with other people. It's hard to do. Like I say, my team, was getting on my case because I apparently do that. I'm sure I do, where, I get frustrated, which is fine. It's a natural human emotion, but where I show it. And sometimes in that clergy Facebook group where they jumped, right, and reacted right away. How do we deal with that kind of stuff? How do we as warrior saints find ourselves being slow to anger so we can have that understanding and not be, the converse, someone who's quick to temper and exalts folly, right? So, and remember, in Proverbs, folly is foolishness, right? It means it's the opposite of wisdom. And so how do we do the good and not do the bad, right? It's a challenge. Now, here's the good news. We struggle with it alongside you. And so we have done a lot of teachings in the Warrior Saints platform that are directed towards this kind of stuff. We teach on things that we hope you struggle with to help, but we're also struggling with those challenges ourselves. Now, listen, I'm going to read to you a litany of things. So, number one, warriorsaints.org. Got to visit us there. Number two, subscribe to the Way of the Warrior Saint. Number three, watch the videos, right? Change your life. So let me give you some of the, listen to this list. I mean, because we've dealt with this stuff. How to reconcile with a jerk. That's our newest one. Conflict resolution. How to have compassion when people irritate us. Anger is the new happiness. Vengeance. Choose how you see it. How to handle an argument ad hominem or an ad hominem argument. And there's a beautiful series, See Clearly. In this series of See Clearly, there's a great class. It's not about what it's about, right? So one of the things that we have to recognize, maybe we'll talk about this tomorrow. This should be fun. That when a situation comes that causes that facial reaction or whatever reaction we may have, that it's really not ever about what it's about. Join us. I mean, we're on the journey. We're trying to deal with those reactions. Join us. We've got a full list of classes there, warriorsaints.org. We're going to come back tomorrow and continue to explore this. Love you, beautiful people. Have a great one. And as always, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.